Good afternoon and welcome to the first quarter of 2022 award ceremony. I'd like to start off by recognizing some very dignified folks that have joined us. City Councilman Anthony Bana, thank you for joining us, sir. Chief Assistant City Manager Jesus Moreo, thank you. And Chief Deputy Brian Hester. And a contingency of Sheriff's Office personnel, thank you for joining us. Let's get started with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we got a new backdrop. We're going to have to move the flag for the next ceremony. Here. Well, this quarter, like every other quarter, highlights a tremendous amount of very high-quality police work. There's some tremendous acts of bravery in here. There's excellent investigations and all-around great customer service and service to our community. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Delacroce to get started with the service awards.
We're going to begin with our 5-year service citations. Kelly Cathy, Evidence Technician, and Officer B2 Morstan. Fifteen-year service citations, Sergeant Maya August, Sergeant Timothy Bort, Officer Robert DiAgostino, Detective Courtney Druga, Officer Dean Herzog, Officer Alan Ludmer, Officer Suzanne Moore Fleetus, Officer Francisco Rodriguez, Officer Jermaine Singleton, and Detective John Squateri. Thirty-year service citation, Officer Jennifer DiMatteo Bennett.
More to go. You don't look a day over 30.
For our Career Ladder Program, Officer James Longo has achieved the rank of Master Officer, Sergeant Tara Pavlichin has achieved the rank of Master Sergeant, and Lieutenant Brent Black has achieved the rank of Senior Lieutenant. Unit citation for the PSA section, Kim Reisinger, Tiffany Hunter, Jill Coors, Nicholas Martin, Garrett Smith, Patricia Rizzo Babcock, Donna Froley, Stephanie Jones, Jennifer Ladina, Jessica Polychronis, and Paulina Tranberg. You have been awarded a unit citation based on a nomination submitted by Sergeant Brian Boyce. As the nation saw a rise in COVID-19 cases in the first quarter of 2022, so did our agency in the Police Service Aid section. During this time, several members had to quarantine and stay out for several days due to being exposed to and contracting the virus. Non-exposed employees had to cover shifts so the section could continuously operate their 24-hour-a-day, 7 days a week requirement. The PSAs did not skip a beat during this time and could still provide full service to the rapidly growing community and members of this agency. Also during this quarter, the PSA section logged over 20,000 phone calls, handled over 2,000 citizens who walked into the station for assistance, and sent over 1,000 messages to department employees. When you walk into the PSA section, you are greeted with smiles, and they are willing to assist in any way they can. As a result of your teamwork and dedication, you are awarded a unit citation for the first quarter of 2022.
Being the selfless leader she is, Kim volunteered to stay back and work the PSA section. So,
we have a unit citation for Sergeant Maya August, Officer Al Corona, Officer Jesse McInerney, Officer Peter Chun, Officer Yamilit Hernandez, and Officer Nelson Ojeda. You have been awarded a unit citation based on a nomination submitted by Lieutenant Mike Beath. On January 17th, officers responded to Southwest Mundy Street to perform a welfare check on a suspect armed individual threatening to commit suicide. When the officers arrived, they discovered the subject was not armed and was in a nearby wooded lot. The individual climbed up on a very tall tree and was ready to jump to his death. The officers surrounded the area and started negotiations to help the man down from the tree. Crisis negotiation team member Al Corona was summoned to the scene and discovered quickly that the subject did not speak English, only Creole. Sergeant Maya August was called to assist Officer Corona as a translator. Officers Ojeda, McInerney, Chun, and Hernandez had their hands full keeping spectators back and dealing with the family on scene due to a funeral they all attended before this event. As you can imagine, the location was somewhat chaotic. All officers involved worked together, strategically using many different techniques, and got the subject to climb down to about 15 feet from the ground. Then Officer Ojeda used a ladder from the fire department and positioned himself between the subject and a location where the man could climb up the tree. Additionally, Sergeant August and Officer Corona continued to convince the subject to come down. After a couple of hours, the man dropped himself down into a soft area of pine straw and was safely taken to the hospital. The crowd erupted with applause for the officers' efforts and persistence in not giving up. The officers worked very well together and coordinated their efforts into a plan which resulted in a successful outcome. Because of your positive actions, you deserve a unit citation. Unit citation for auto burglaries on Southeast Charleston Drive and Southeast Albatross Avenue. Lieutenant Matt Cuba, Sergeant Andy Lawler, Detective Clayton Baldwin, Detective Dan Papaleo, K-9 Officer Corey Kresick, Officer Kevin Helseth, Officer Bryce Thomas, Officer Mark Woodruff, CSI Denitza Yaroma, Sergeant Abe Alves, Sergeant Josh Staffamilla, Detective Latrice Holliday, Detective Nate Penny, K-9 Jackson, Officer Gregory Gibbons, Officer Daniel Leafling, Officer Tanner Terrio, Officer Brian Thompson, and CSI Janelle Ramirez. And Sergeant Abel Alves, Detective Nate Penny, and K-9 Officer Corey Kresick will also receive an accommodation citation for this incident. You have been awarded a unit citation based on a nomination submitted by Commander Michelle Steele. On February 1st at 3:24 a.m., officers were dispatched to Southeast Charleston Drive for a burglary that just occurred to a motor vehicle. The caller advised that suspects wearing ski masks, dressed in all black, and carrying what looked like duffel bags fled the area in a light-colored SUV. District 1, 2, and 3 officers responded to the area to locate the suspect vehicle. Sergeant Abe Alves also responded to District 1, and while traveling on Southeast Portsmouth Boulevard, he observed the vehicle pass him from the other direction traveling at a high rate of speed. Sergeant Alves turned around and followed in the direction of the vehicle. From a distance, he observed the vehicle change direction several times and continued to drive erratically. While Sergeant Alves attempted to initiate a traffic stop, the suspect vehicle pulled into a gas station where all 4 occupants exited the vehicle and fled on foot towards the St. Lucie River. Sergeant Alves remained with the suspect vehicle and was soon joined by Lieutenant Cuba. Canine Officer Kresick and Canine Jackson arrived on scene and were joined by Detective Baldwin and Officer Kukuvka. Numerous officers set an excellent perimeter along the twin bridges, the nearby parks, and the boardwalk to keep the suspects confined. Sergeant Alves and Lieutenant Cuba located an adult male suspect near the gas station and immediately took him into custody. After an extensive track, 3 juvenile males were located by Canine Officer Kresick and Canine Jackson. Items reported missing from the male initially calling 911 were observed in plain view inside the suspect vehicle. Additional items were located on the ground nearby the located suspects. The 4 suspects were taken into custody and transported to the police department, where they were interviewed by Detective Penny, who took over as the lead investigator. All 4 suspects confessed to committing multiple burglaries in the city of Port St. Lucie and were arrested for multiple counts of an auto burglary, as well as resisting arrest. The adult male was also arrested for contributing to the delinquency of minors. Detectives and crime scene investigators worked together to process the suspect vehicle and inventory the numerous items stolen to return them to the rightful owners. Thanks to the combined efforts of the Neighborhood Policing Bureau and the Criminal Investigations Division, a combined 16 auto burglaries were cleared by arrest in detectives in Districts 1 and 2, and property was returned to the victims. Therefore, you are deserving of receiving a unit citation. Accommodation citation for the South Florida Task Force. Detective Sergeant Staffamilla and Detective Timothy Herring. You are being awarded accommodation citation based on a nomination submitted by Jamie Sparks, office manager. On January 29th, the South Florida Task Force monitored a vehicle involved in statewide auto burglaries and boat thefts. Members of the task force monitored the car via a tracker order and surveillance when they observed several auto burglary attempts that morning within the city of Port St. Lucie. Detective Herring and Sergeant Staffamilla were contacted to assist with a burglary that had just occurred within the city limits. After confirmation of the occupied auto burglary, members of the task force conducted a traffic stop in Martin County. They apprehended the 3 suspects involved and turned them over to Detective Herring. A search warrant was executed on the vehicle, and Detective Herring arrested the suspects for occupied burglary, 2 unoccupied burglaries, and criminal mischief. Based upon your work with the task force, you are most worthy of accommodation citation. A life-saving citation and commendation citation for Officer Adam Doty and Sarah Jane, a Beagle mix who belongs to Mr. Smith. Based upon a nomination submitted by Sergeant Byrne, you are the recipient of the Life-Saving Citation Award based on your quick actions in assisting Mr. Smith, who was in a lake trying to stay afloat. While taking his Beagle mix Sarah Jane out for a walk, Harry Smith's wheels spun him around, sending him down an embankment into the water. Sarah barked loudly, alerting 2 civilians, Edward and Abby. While Officer Doty was patrolling the area of Southwest Twig Avenue, he was flagged down and told that a man had fallen off his wheelchair into the lake and was struggling to stay afloat. Upon arriving, Ed and Abby were attempting to rescue Harry Smith. Officer Doty jumped into action quickly and helped them remove Harry from the lake, assuring he was provided the care of rescue. Due to your assistance and quick actions, Harry Smith was saved and out of the lake. Thus, you are most deserving of this award. And Mr. Smith and Officer Doty, if you guys could stay up there, we have 3 Civic awards in reference to this incident. Is Brad and Corrine Lexer, owners of Mobility Plus, here? Please come up. On behalf of the men and women of the Port St. Lucie Police Department, please accept our appreciation for your outstanding service to a Port St. Lucie resident. You responded to the need by repairing an electric wheelchair for Mr. Smith. We have a Civic Award for medical home care supply. Read it anyways. On behalf of the men and women of the Port St. Lucie Police Department, please accept our appreciation for your outstanding service to a Port St. Lucie resident. You responded to the need by donating an electric wheelchair for Mr. Smith.
I just want to comment. This is what makes living and working and raising your children in Port St. Lucie so special. When members of our community saw this situation and they knew they could help, they didn't even hesitate. They just jumped in and helped make the situation right. So I really want to thank you. Thank you for what you did.
And we have a Civic Award for Dogs with Style Mobile Grooming. On behalf of the men and women of the Port St. Lucie Police Department, please accept our appreciation for your outstanding service to a Port St. Lucie resident. You graciously provided Sarah Jane with grooming services after Sarah Jane aided her owner who fell into a pond. Life-saving citation for Officer Robert DiAgostino and Officer Alan Ludmer. Based upon a nomination submitted by Sergeant Kenny, you are the recipient of the Life-Saving Citation Award based on you rescuing a man who was attempting suicide. You responded quickly to a call about an adult male attempting suicide. Upon arriving, you were directed to the garage by a woman who explained her adult grandson was actively trying to hang himself in the garage. You immediately engaged the suspect, Officer DiAgostino wrapping his arms around the suspect's legs, relieving the pressure off his neck, while Officer Ludmer unwrapped the hose from the male's neck. You could then lift the individual off the chair, attempting to render aid and engage in conversation with him. As a result of your immediate actions, the male was transferred to the hospital for further evaluation and proper treatment. Based upon your life-saving measures, you are most deserving of this award. Life-saving citation for Officer Fatima Barrera. Based upon a nomination submitted by Sergeant Garcia, you are the recipient of the Life-Saving Citation Award based on your quick actions in assisting a man who was not conscious on the side of the road. While off-duty, driving in the area of Southwest Crosstown Parkway and Southwest Congo Street, you noticed a male lying on the side of the road. Several people were standing around the unconscious male, but no one administered any treatment. You went into action immediately to assess the situation. You found the male was not breathing and directed your spouse to call 911 as no one had called in yet. You began performing CPR on the male, and he began to have agonal breathing, and a pulse was felt. Rescue arrived on scene and took over care of the male, transporting him to the hospital for treatment. He was stabilized at the emergency room and transferred to the intensive care unit. As a result of your immediate actions by providing life-saving measures, the male was able to make it to the hospital for treatment. Therefore, you are most deserving of this award. Life-saving citation for Officer Andrew Kansian. Based upon a nomination submitted by Sergeant August, you are the recipient of the Life Saving Citation Award based on your quick actions in assisting a man who was not conscious or breathing. On February 6th, you responded to the scene of a traffic accident involving a 4-year-old male who had been struck by a pickup truck and was not conscious or breathing. Upon arrival, you immediately began performing CPR. During this emotional situation with family members near, you stayed on task and continued performing CPR until EMS arrived. The child was then airlifted to St. Mary's Hospital. As a result of your immediate actions, the young male was able to be transferred to the hospital for further medical evaluation. Due to your quick arrival and starting CPR, you provided life-saving measures that allowed the young male to receive necessary medical treatment. Therefore, you are most deserving of this award. Life-saving citation for Officer Camille Maron and Officer Benjamin Thayer. Based upon a nomination submitted by Sergeant Levasseur, you are the recipient of the Life-Saving Citation Award based on you rendering aid to a man who was not conscious or breathing. You responded to a rescue run where CPR was in progress. Upon arrival, both officers took over CPR until rescue arrived. The male started to breathe, but a check on the subject showed CPR was still required. Therefore, compressions were continued until rescue arrived. Rescue took him to the hospital where he was placed in ICU until the family decided to discontinue medical treatment. Your actions prolonged the male's life long enough for competent medical care to be provided. Additionally, because of your immediate actions, the young male was able to be transferred to the hospital for further medical evaluation. Due to your quick arrival and starting CPR, you provided life-saving measures that allowed the young male to receive the necessary medical treatment. Therefore, you are most deserving of this award. Life-saving citation for Officer Carl Durbin and Officer Brennan Lawton. Based on Sergeant Kilner's nomination, you're the recipient of the Life-Saving Citation Award based on your quick actions in assisting a man in full cardiac arrest. On February 12th, you responded to a restaurant on Veterans Memorial Parkway where a person was in full cardiac arrest and collapsed. Upon arrival, the officers immediately took over giving CPR. The officers continued to provide the woman with chest compressions until they could revive her, allowing rescue to take over upon their arrival. The woman was then transported to the hospital. As a result of your immediate actions, the woman was able to be transferred to the hospital for further medical evaluation and treatment, and she was discharged the next day. Due to your quick arrival and continuing CPR, you provided life-saving measures that allowed the woman to receive the necessary medical treatment. Therefore, you are most deserving of this award. Life-saving citation for Officer Bryce Thomas. Based upon a nomination submitted by Sergeant Alves, you are the recipient of the Life-Saving Citation Award based on your quick actions in assisting a man who was not conscious or breathing. On February 22nd, you responded to a rescue run dispatch. Being the first to arrive on scene, you assessed the scene, speaking to the wife and getting an update on the man's medical history and current episode. You determined that CPR was needed while connecting the man to your AED, while also providing aid to the laceration on his head. Once rescue arrived on scene, they took over medical assistance. The man was subsequently transported to the hospital for further medical attention. As a result of your immediate actions, the man was able to be transferred to the hospital for further medical evaluation and treatment. Due to your quick arrival, using your AED and starting CPR, you provided life-saving measures that allowed the man to receive the necessary medical treatment. As a result of your actions, you are most deserving of this award. Administrative Excellence Awards for administrative responsibilities with the SWAT team. Sergeant Timothy Bort, Officer Nelson Ojeda, Officer Julio Boris, and Detective Michael Oliver. Based upon a nomination submitted by Lieutenant Mike Beath, you are the recipients of an Administrative Excellence Award for the first quarter of 2022. Lieutenant Beath mentioned these individuals exemplify personal accomplishments and perform highly accredited acts regularly. In addition, they regularly demonstrate a level of performance in an administrative capacity that goes above and beyond the regular performance of their duties. As SWAT team leaders, you are trained in special weapons and tactics. You are responsible for coordinating the SWAT team deployment during tactical operations involving members directly under your command. You assist in tactical decisions by selecting routes of advancement, points of entry into buildings or structures, and directing target acquisition. You also aid in all SWAT operations and functions. Additionally, as team leaders, you assist in all SWAT training and mission documentation. Additionally, each of you helped write guidelines for the agency. For example, after your extensive search, the Warrant Service General Guideline was rewritten to display the safest tactics and procedures to execute search warrants without putting unnecessary persons at risk. The planning and operational strategies for the SWAT team are fluid. They are always in need of fine-tuning to maintain the proficiency the citizens of Port St. Lucie expect from our agency. You have been instrumental in preparing, planning, and executing these plans through the year's first quarter. In March 2022, our SWAT team executed 9 missions, and you were critical players in the agency's overall success. Because of the department's SWAT team's exceptional standards, the agency's documentation has been used as a role model of how to properly perform training documentation by other agencies within the state of Florida. Therefore, due to your exceptional attention to detail, planning, and know-how, you are being presented with an Administrative Excellence Award for the first quarter of 2022. Accommodation citation for the Morningside Boulevard shooting, Raven Kelly, 911 Communications Dispatcher. You have been awarded a accommodation citation based upon your heroic duties on July 6, 2020. On July 6, while working as a 911 communications dispatcher, Ms. Kelly received a 911 call, at which point she initiated the service of the members of the Port St. Lucie Police Department to respond to 2501 Southeast Morningside Boulevard. While on the phone, Ms. Kelly went above and beyond to gather essential information, including the suspect's name, a description of the suspect, and what he was armed with. During a chaotic phone call, Ms. Kelly was able to bring calmness to gather these facts, to which were essential to the arriving officer's safety. Despite the frantic phone call, Ms. Kelly was able to establish the correct address. Additionally, Ms. Kelly provided the directions to try to maintain the caller's safety. Ms. Kelly was able to remain calm while dealing with these moments of need and distress. As the events unfolded that day, you were an instrumental part in guiding the caller and our officers to the scene, assuring to provide all the necessary information, going above and beyond. Your dedication and commitment to the citizens of our city, including our officers, is being honored today. As such, you are being awarded a Accommodation Award. The Law Enforcement Cross of Valor, Lieutenant Keith Boham, Officer Brett LaGrega, Officer Michael Williams, and St. Lucie Sheriff Deputy Doris Tracy. You have been awarded a Law Enforcement Cross of Valor based upon your heroic actions on July 6, 2020. On July 6, officers were dispatched to 2501 Southeast Morningside Boulevard in reference to gunshots. Officers Brett LaGrega and Michael Williams were the first to arrive on scene. It was clear right away that this was an active shooter incident. Officers LaGrega and Williams did not hesitate as you entered the home and immediately took on gunfire from the suspect, who was located on the second floor. During the gunfight, your fellow officer was shot in the left arm and in the chest. At that time, you continued to ensure his safety while covering him while he exited the home. Deputy Doris Tracy conducted a facility check at a nearby school when she heard the gunshots. She immediately acted by running toward the home to help officers who were engaged with the active shooter. Deputy Tracy entered the home and removed the young gunshot victim from the home. Lieutenant Keith Boham had taken cover outside the home and brought a young victim to the staging area to provide first aid. Tragically, she succumbed to her life-threatening injuries at the hospital. As the events unfolded that day, the heroism and bravery of the responding officers have not gone unnoticed. You risked your life that day, exposing yourself to danger and peril above and beyond the call of duty. As we remember the 2 innocent lives that were lost during this tragic event, your bravery, dedication, and commitment to serve the citizens of Port St. Lucie is being honored. Your selfless and exceptional act of duty epitomizes the integrity, honor, and dedication to which the police profession prides itself on. As such, you are being awarded the Law Enforcement Cross of Valor. The Chief Brian E. Ruther, Sorry.
I just want to real briefly, this epitomizes how well this community works together. The sheriff's office and the police department both responded to a call, and this is, and dispatch was phenomenal in this too. These types of calls don't happen often in this community, and they don't happen often in our county. And this shows what the true grit of the law enforcement that works in this community is they ran right to that, and the response time on this was phenomenal. And I want to thank you, Deputy Tracy, and officers for just a phenomenal job. I was out on vacation, and I was not there, but the firsthand knowledge that Assistant Chief Del Toro told me about what went on that day, very professional, and just thank you.
The Chief Brian E. Ruther, Manager of the First Quarter of 2022. Detective Sergeant Joshua Staffamilla. Based on Commander Donnell's nomination, you have been selected to receive the Chief Brian E. Ruther, Manager of the First Quarter. Since starting your assignment as the Criminal Investigations Property Crime East Sergeant, you have taken on various administrative tasks and implemented significant changes within the division. You immediately began the tedious task of incorporating the department as participating South Florida Auto Theft Task Force members. The benefits of this membership were instantaneous. On January 26, CID detectives utilized this membership to obtain a search warrant for a resident in Jupiter Farms. A theft investigation involving a semi-truck and trailer revealed that the vehicles were being stored at this location and that the property owner was the primary suspect. The search warrant was executed with the assistance of agents within the South Florida Task Force, and property stolen from our citizens was promptly recovered. In addition, numerous fraudulent titles were discovered and additional stolen vehicles were found. $3.5 million in wire transfers from the overseas sale of stolen vehicles were uncovered, and the equipment utilized to manufacture fraudulent VIN plates were also seized. As well, several other cases have been resolved thanks to your use of the South Florida Task Force that resulted in career criminals being taken off the streets. In addition to your superior work within the Criminal Investigations Division, you also serve as an agency instructor where you mentor and teach numerous topics. This collateral duty is in addition to the regular responsibilities you are charged with. You are regarded as a highly motivated and enthusiastic leader among your peers and subordinates. Your passion for law enforcement inspires all who work with you. You routinely ensure that the detectives are taken care of and assist them with their investigations due to your previous experience with investigations. Your willingness to teach your detectives does not go unnoticed. Additionally, you oversee the awards committee as the chairman. You consistently handle these tasks while performing your duties within CID. You have also secured access to multiple investigative resources, such as the Regional Information Sharing Systems Program, Carfax for Police, ADF Solutions for Forensic Investigations, and the South Florida Task Force databases. As a result of your outstanding leadership and mentoring while fostering our department's missions and goals, you are being presented with the Chief Brian E. Ruther, Manager of the First Quarter for 2022. Volunteer of the First Quarter for 2022, Ronnie Cooper. Based upon a nomination submitted by Donna Hens, Volunteer Coordinator, you have been selected as the Volunteer of the First Quarter for 2022. For over 2 years, you have been a volunteer with the Port St. Lucie Police Department. Currently, you volunteer as a courier for the department, delivering vital documents to and from the State Attorney's Office, Court Clerk, 911, and other locations as needed. You are dependable in your work. You often cover for other couriers who cannot work on their scheduled day. In the past, you have helped with transporting new fleet vehicles to Jupiter for the installation of equipment. As a dedicated volunteer, you also plan on taking the next community patrol class to further your opportunity to volunteer. You are a pleasure to work with and are considered a vital asset to the volunteer program. With that said, you are most worthy of being named the Volunteer of the First Quarter for 2022. Civilian of the First Quarter, Colleen Backles. Based on Sergeant DeRico's nomination, you have been selected as the civilian of the first quarter for 2022. Sergeant DeRico stated Fleet Coordinator Colleen Backles should be recognized for her transition and performance excellence in her new Fleet Coordinator position. It is important to recognize when someone enters a position and immediately excels in performance. In just a short time in taking over the position, you have successfully stepped into the role and happily assisted officers with their requests without hesitation, all while making sure every vehicle and personnel assigned to a vehicle have what they need. You are also readily available and respond with an answer or resolution immediately. In addition, you grabbed administrative control over many moving components, including documents, paperwork, and acknowledge of our operational fleet needs, which resolve many officer complaints regarding spares and accessibility. In addition, your administrative actions have not gone unnoticed and continue to evolve the fleet operation smoothly. You also help train your replacement in purchasing, which is not an easy task, and very much other demanding and challenging position in supporting the agency's operational needs. You are generally an asset and can be best described as a cog in a machine. Without such part, the machine cannot function properly and is considered very much to be a vital component. We are very proud to have an employee who displays the willingness and desire to go above and beyond their duties. For this reason, you have been awarded Civilian of the First Quarter for 2022. Detective of the First Quarter for 2022, Detective Timothy Herring. Based on Detective Sergeant Staffamilla's nomination, you have been selected as the Detective of the First Quarter for 2022. Throughout the first quarter, your attitude and job performance have been described as extraordinary. You're a hardworking and dedicated detective who brings a positive attitude to work every day. You're always active while on shift, either following up on assigned cases, self-initiating cases involving stolen vehicles from rental agencies within the city limits, and developing operations to curtail the illegal operation of automotive shops and helping fellow detectives with their cases. During this quarter, you participated in numerous high-profile criminal investigations, which resulted in an unprecedented 46% positive clearance rate. You're also one of the most active members of the Criminal Investigations Division, routinely serving search warrants and court orders to bring successful closure to your cases. Aside from your casework, you display a commitment to the development and successful implementation of the department, becoming an active participant in the South Florida Task Force. You develop contacts and build bridges for resources that stretch from as far north as St. Lucie County down through the southern tip of Florida. You're an official member of the task force and utilize these resources to execute search warrants outside the city limits to recover vehicles stolen from our residents and delve deeper into criminal organizations behind these operations. In addition to your dedication to the South Florida Task Force, you requested to focus on auto thefts and automotive parts-related investigations within the city. You have been working in partnership with the National Insurance Crime Bureau to complete these auto theft investigations. Finally, you recently attended an auto theft symposium where you further expounded your knowledge on auto thefts, and you have shared this information with fellow detectives. Based upon the above outstanding work, you're awarded Detective of the First Quarter for 2022. And our last award of this afternoon, Officer of the First Quarter for 2022, Officer Leonard Kubicek. Based on a nomination submitted by Sergeant DeRico, you have been named Officer of the First Quarter. As a young, motivated officer, you serve as an exceptional representation of what a police officer should categorize within this agency. As a growing asset to the department, along with your dedication and desire to be successful, coupled with an unwavering work ethic, you have accomplished what is considered highly accredited acts for the department. One such case exemplifies these facts stems from an incident that occurred in January 2022. A call for service was dispatched where burglary in progress was occurring on Southwest Biltmore Avenue involving catalytic converter thefts. You arrived in the area and observed an illegally parked vehicle that appeared suspicious on Southwest Biltmore. Prior to arrival, information was relayed that the suspect was observed sawing off catalytic converters from vehicles. As you entered the area, the vehicle began to leave. However, you conducted a traffic stop to which resulted in the apprehension of a suspect in possession of 4 catalytic converters and illegal narcotics. Another case that should be noted occurred on March 30th, where you were dispatched to a burglary in progress regarding a male who was later identified, made entry into a vehicle and was believed to be under the influence of meth. The suspect was observed hunched down between the vehicle he was burglarizing and the complainant's residence to evade law enforcement detection upon their arrival. You and Officer Martinez secured the subject and effect an arrest for burglary on scene without incident. Sergeant DeRico describes you as a very proactive officer, especially on midnight schedule. You have made over 13 arrests since January 1st and produced over 120 citations, 4 FI cards, and wrote over 70 reports. These statistics are just a fraction of your highly qualified work that you've accomplished. It is with the above-mentioned facts and your dedication as a police officer that you are being awarded as Officer of the First Quarter for 2022. That's it.
Thank you all for joining us. That concludes our ceremony, and I think there's no question why. What are you shaking your head up and down for, Lisa? Oh, okay. Don't ever look at the crowd when you're speaking. It's very distracting with this crowd. There's no question why we have one of the lowest crime rates in the state of Florida. I mean, tremendous police work, tremendous support from the community, and tremendous support from the city council. Thank you, sir. It all comes together and makes a wonderful place to live, work, and play. So thank you all. And I guess the answer is yes, Kim's doing this now. Refreshments back at the station. So thank you.